Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Come to you live from the outskirts of the internet. It's the Gaming Saloon for May 11th, 2024, which hosts Peacemaker 2448, Ramping Up Salon, and Tommy Boy.
Hi. I guess I'll say it first.
What up? It has been a minute since I've actually been a part of one of these.
It is a week of how do 2/3 of our big three fuck up really bad, and then the other three just is like, oh, we're here, we're doing our thing.
Pure stupidity. One of them had it made and decided to shoot themselves in the fucking foot. Boy, it got quiet.
Sorry, guys. All the outsider stuff is dropping at the moment.
Oh,
Ryder, and it's just like, oh, good lord. Because you see the TGS chat, right, Clock?
Not at the moment. Hang on. Let me put it up on the computer. Sorry, I am still working on my controller.
The Discord chat, mind you.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. You see one of the things for like the next episode of Outsiders, which is a Vault X.
Where at?
The TGS discussing chat and Discord.
He's not actually in it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Live forums, then TGS discussion.
Yep, I gotta jump to present. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Oh, what?
And apparently also in that trailer is a new Poppy-related gas hat wielded by someone. We don't see any form or anything associated with it, but it's clearly Poppy. So, I guess we're getting a new Poppy form?
Fun, I think.
And anywho, game stuff. Xbox doing things, Sony doing things, Nintendo doing things. But what article does not? And we'll get to that at the end. But before that, which one of you wants to talk about what you've been playing the last couple of weeks first?
Couple weeks? More like several months.
Whatever you feel like talking about then.
Baldur's Gate 3, and it deserves every bit of praise it has gotten. Oh, did you want me to continue?
Yes. Whatever you feel like talking about, just talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's for anybody that's not tried it, like, even if it's not your cup of tea, the turn-based type game, I try to recommend that everyone give it a shot, because it really is, for all intents and purposes, it is best in show. Like, I have not played another turn-based that was this kind of style that even came close to this. Even their other games, the Divinity games, they're good, and Divinity Original Sin 2 is probably the closest, but it still doesn't quite capture the same level of detail and just how well done it is as Baldur's Gate 3. And the beautiful thing about it is you don't have to know anything about the other two games. There are, like, references, but none of it is required at all in the slightest. It is a beautifully done game, and it is worth it is worth putting yourself through something that you might not enjoy if you're not a fan of turn-based, just to see if maybe it is something for you, because it is a work of art.
Anything else?
My wife's been playing the Phoenix Wright games.
Ooh, which one?
Sorry, she was telling me her thoughts. She said that they're great. She has played all of them now, up to Apollo Justice.
Oh, so the original trilogy.
She's played. Well, hang on. She's played the original trilogy and the Apollo Justice stuff. She said that I remember while she was playing it, she said that she thought that the Apollo Justice games were a bit more thought-provoking, which was nice, but she's not as big of a fan of them as the original trilogy.
Well, I'm trying to remember. There was a break between the trilogy and Apollo Justice, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the Ace Attorney Investigations, I think, is what you're talking about, the break in between the two.
Well, I think there was just development break in general between the trilogy and Apollo Justice.
Oh, yeah. I have not played Apollo Justice. I've played the original trilogy. I haven't finished it. I played 1 and part of 2. I want to play it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Well, the current releases for it pretty much gives you everything except the investigation games. You even get Great Ace Attorney, which we didn't get stateside at all.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to go back and finish it. I just haven't gotten around to it. Tommy, you want to take over?
I mean, honestly, I've not really had anything. I keep updating Star Citizen to want to hop back into it, and I think I did hop into 322 a little bit, but yeah, now that 323 is out, I kind of want to hop into it.
Is it even worth it? Everything I've ever read about Star Citizen just sounds like a fucking piggy bank.
It depends on how you want to treat it. It can be if you want to try to test literally everything in the game. But if you want to just get in there and kind of have fun with it, then yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a pay what you want to pay kind of deal.
Would you consider
you
it
could literally get into the game for, I think it's like $60 as the starter ships, and literally do anything to get money to buy most of the other ships in game. I say it that way because a lot of the ships you can't buy in game, you also can't buy with money either. So, man,
what would you consider? What would you rate it if you compared it to like Elite Dangerous?
Honestly, it's hard to even try to compare them. In all seriousness, because
I fell in love with Elite Dangerous.
I don't want to use the words space sim as far as describing it, because it's really not. It has its video game aspects to it. But honestly, that's about the closest that you can say to it. With Elite Dangerous, the thing is, have you played their first person stuff too, or is it just the ship stuff that you have liked?
Oh, just the ship stuff. I was a space taxi. I didn't care to investigate planets. I took people across the galaxy, and that's all I wanted to do. I was happy with it.
Honestly, I can't, like I said, I can't really compare them flat one-to-one kind of deal. I do know this much. Both games have such a steep learning curve that it is hard to try to pivot back and forth between them. It's one of those, if you've played Elite Dangerous a lot recently, then chances are you're probably going to have a hard time with Star Citizen at the beginning, and vice versa. It's kind of that difference from what you're used to seeing for like Halo and Call of Duty, where if you can play one, you can play both. This is definitely not that.
Okay.
There's similarities enough, but Elite Dangerous plays more like a game, whereas Star Citizen has the game aspects, but truthfully feels like it's more of a sim kind of deal.
Okay.
Truthfully, instead of calling it a space sim, it's probably better to call it like a space game sim.
Okay.
And I really only say that because of the simple fact of, yeah, some of the stuff that happens in the game, excluding bugs, yeah, would not actually happen.
1 second, I'll be right back.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I've not really played anything that hasn't been on stream. Because, you know, even when I've been BK'd in an archipelago for most of the seed, shoutouts to not this past Friday, but the one before that, playing Mario vs. Donkey Kong on stream is about the only other thing that I've done.
Fair. Am I missing a piece?
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Piece.
I guess anything else on your end? So I feel like I've hit a wall in Poke Clicker,
Oh god.
which is essentially like a Pokemon like click thing, like cookie clicker.
Okay.
The problem is that wall, I just need more power, just outright Pokemon power.
Is it an actual Pokemon game? Like it's licensed?
No,
Or is
it's
it-
fan-made.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get it's a fan-made game. You can get it like with or without scripts. I would recommend getting it with scripts so that you can like be not have to juggle 5,000 things, and it automates a lot of stuff.
Makes sense.
But like I'm at the Alolan Elite Four. I can't really beat them because I just don't have the power. Like even if I took even if I had nothing in Hatchery, which if you have Pokemon in the Hatchery, they don't count towards your power level. Even at like max power, which is like I think I can get about 3 million power. It's not enough.
Oh wow.
So I have to grind. And that's kind of turned me off the game. I will say, the thing that's really caught people's attention is Poke Rogue, which is a Pokemon roguelike. Again,
Always
fan-made,
fun.
not official. The only problem is that I feel like I'm not getting the game right because I've not been able to really do a run. But essentially, you have all the starters accessible to you from all the gens, and then you catch Pokemon, and then whenever you catch them the first time, they become available. Every subsequent quiet time you catch them, you get the little like nugget things you get in like Pokemon Go. And with enough of those, you can unlock a passive for them, and with more, you can like drop their cost because I think you have like 9 points to spend, and Pokemon cost different amounts of points. So all the starters are like 3 points off the bat.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Also, there is I think there's at least IV stuff, and the IVs are just, hey, whatever Pokemon you got, its IVs are, that's saved, and if you catch multiple of a Pokemon, whatever their collective best IVs are, is that Pokemon's IVs. So if you got one Squirtle that's like has like stupid good max HP IVs, and you have another Squirtle that is stupid good attack IVs, the Squirtle you take in when you select it will have both of those.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's for the clicker, or is that for the roguelike?
This is for the roguelike.
Oh, okay.
The clicker is just, hey, you caught a Pokemon, it evolves, but you keep the other Pokemon for power's sake.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, to access Mega Evolution out of the game, you have to have Pokemon at like stupid high power levels. Like stupid high power levels. The only way to increase power is to throw them in the hatchery, have them hatch, and their power goes up by some amount. And you just cycle that around until they reach the power level necessary to Mega Evolve.
Mm.
But yeah, like I've tried Rogue. I just don't feel like I'm getting off the ground on it. Let's see. Besides that, I finally got like one of the big missing pieces for my Destroy deck in Marvel Snap, which is Null. Null, essentially every card that is destroyed in a duel, it gets the power of all of those cards cumulatively.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's 6 cost, which means you're only playing it on the last turn, but it is cumulatively the power of every card destroyed the game. So when you're destroying a whole bunch of cards...
Yeah, that becomes a very powerful card very, very quickly.
Granted, you can only throw it down a single lane, but hey, that might cinch the lane for you.
Yeah.
But finally getting that is nice. I'm still kind of missing like a Nikomaru. I forget. There's that, another card, and there's a third one I think that I see a lot when I check for Destroy decks that probably I need to like super play optimally, but otherwise the deck's kind of where I'm happy with it for now. Besides that, the big thing was the new patch for Honkai Star Rail, which means new story content. Are you familiar with Honkai Star Rail at all, Glock?
I have watched others play it, but it has not been something that I'm super interested in.
Okay.
That's just me personally. Like, I understand others have enjoyed it a lot.
I really enjoy the stories and character and stuff in that game. It's super good.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that people enjoy it.
I will put it this way: most people, I would say, probably don't get super invested in the game until you're at the end of the Rio 6 planet, which is literally the first planet you visit. Once you hit that and you get the nice little like stupid cool moment during the final boss of that planet, that hooks everybody.
Yeah.
I have never seen a reaction that is not, oh, this isn't good. It's always people when get to that moment are like, oh shit, yes, I'm on board. The only downside is after Euro 6, you're in the Jianzhou Lafu stuff, which is not great.
Right.
But after that is a bunch of mini story stuff that is really good and then you get to Penacony, which is where we're at the moment, which is really good. But I won't get too in deep in what's going on with Penacony since it was just out this week with the new stuff. But the basic setup, for your sake, Clock, is we have gone to this planet called Penacony.
Mm-hmm.
It is a resort planet that used to be a penal colony ran by the IPC before the prisoners overthrew it, took it over, and turned it into this resort planet, essentially. It's a giant hotel that allows you to go into a dream world that's segmented out and stuff and like live out your desires and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I call it a penal colony is because that's where the name comes from. Penacony, penal colony.
Right.
But the Astro Express, who is the group that your main character plays as, is a part of. They were invited there because there's a festival called the Charmy Festival being held, and the Astro Express, among other factions from across the galaxy, have been invited to attend. And it's kind of supposed to be kind of like a neutral, just everybody comes here to have some fun, regardless of anything. Because, you know, one of the people invited was a member of the Masked Fools, who are Chaos Gremlins. All they desire is just to create chaos.
Always fun.
Yes. But when we get there, we have like a strange encounter with a Galaxy Ranger named Acheron, who's a kind of a vigilante sorts, is what the Galaxy Rangers are. But we get there, we seem to be having a nice fun time until problems start happening, and then this supposed tour guide, it turns out that they're a stowaway called Firefly, gets murdered by this death dragon, essentially, that causes people to die in the dream, which should be impossible. You cannot die in the dream. But she gets killed in front of us. And then we find out that Robin, the sister to one of the heads of the family that runs Penacony, is also dead. And Robin is like a big, like megastar singer sorts in the galaxy. That was the first patch of story content. Kind of like chunked down, because the story content is like 6 hours per patch, about, I would have say about.
Okay.
But then the next patch, we're investigating the murders, trying to figure out who's responsible, what's causing them. We eventually come into conflict with one of the IPC's tax people called Aventurine, who has figured out that there is a place on the other side of the wall that encloses Penacony in the dreams, and that holds all the secrets of Penacony. And in order to get there, you got to get killed really hard.
Mm.
So he more or less pulls a gambit, because that's his entire character, is gambling his life, because he's apparently like naturally lucky because of where he's from. He has an entire backstory and stuff that's really good that is in that second patch of story content, but he gambles that he will survive getting killed really hard. But the only person he can do that with is that Galaxy Ranger Acheron person, because she is an emanator of nihility, more or less a demigod of nihility.
Mm.
For those wondering, the god of nihility is a sentient black hole that does not bequeath his powers for you to become a demigod. You just kind of oopsie your way into getting them if you decide to get close to the sentient black hole. And I do mean sentient black hole.
Fun. So is it, for a new player right now, is it worth it to try playing it? Because I mean, the biggest thing I was concerned with,
yes, because you start at the beginning.
Yeah, but it's a gacha game, so I imagine it's gonna take some spending to actually be any good in it.
That I guess depends on what you mean by good, because the game does give you a whole bunch of free characters and stuff. And honestly, the banner, there's only 3 character banners active at any given time, and one of those is a permanent character banner, and the other 2 are rotate out with the patches. And honestly, I have not spent a dime on the game. I've spent exactly $1 with some discounts and stuff to pick up the season pass or the battle pass to get some extra materials and stuff, just because I was high enough level from playing this past patch.
Okay. Well, I do have some other friends that play it, so I might pick it up then. It sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like, you get free characters. They will get you through the content.
Okay.
Like, if you want to be like good at it, then you probably are going to want to maybe spend money, but the game is generous enough in giving you resources to pull for like characters. And the banners themselves, just to talk about them for a minute, the permanent banner has a bunch of like permanent 5 stars and 4-star characters. There is no real difference between 5 and 4-star characters. It's just 5-star characters are the main ones on a banner. 4-star characters is the subset of ones on there, and that's really the only difference. Everyone kind of like does their own thing, essentially. It's whether or not do they support you? Do they heal you? Do they do damage? How do they do damage? That's how you like parse out the roster. But otherwise, everyone's fairly unique in their own respects, and everyone is good except like one character, I think. I think Arlen is the only bad character in the game universally, and maybe the Trailblazer class that you start with. Like, your player character, that class you start with, is maybe not the greatest as compared to the other 2 you'll get as you play the content. But even then, it's still serviceable for you early on until you get that new class, that second class, which that second class you get at the end of your Relo 6. For free, mind you. But the other 2 banners, it's the new character banner which there's like 2 new character banners per patch, and it's just halfsies of like the first half of the patch's lifespan. It's a new character. The second half is the other new character. And then the second banner is just a rerun of a previous character. So it'll be, for the first half, it's one character. For the second half, it's another character. So right now, if you were to hop in the game, you will find Robin as the new character. She's a new support class character. She, for some reason, has the highest attack of any character in the game because of how her kit works, where she kind of passes that along to other characters. So their buffs are based on her attack. So this Robin is secretly stupid buff, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, because that was my biggest concern with Honkai Star Rail was the same reason that I stopped playing Genshin. I just couldn't get into the story because it seemed like it wanted me to buy everything for me to get into, for me to understand anything.
Yeah, you don't have to for this. Like, the story content is just you can clear it with no problem.
Okay, well, I'll download it now.
Like, I think I ran, was it Trailblazer Preservation, which is Trailblazer Flame Lance, Shushong, who else? Bailu, and a fourth other for a lot of content, and they carry me through everything. But yeah, that is that's a picture of Robin I put in the chat. But you have Robin, and then you have Topaz, who's one of the IPC tax people. She's essentially a part of the Galaxy's government IRS department. That's why we call them the tax people. But she's the rerun character, and so you can pull in either one of them. I believe the odd, I think it's like 9 pulls are guarantee you to 5-star, I believe. If I remember the math right. You'll probably average out lower than that. I think my average is like 7-ish pulls. Gets me a 5-star.
Okay.
But even if you don't get the 5-star, those banners have 3 dedicated 4-stars that are at like an increased pull rate, so you will get them most likely over the 5-star. So even if you're not getting big 5-star character, you are getting 4-star characters. And like I said, just about every 4-star character except like one person is like completely useful to you. It just all depends on what you want to do build wise, team wise. But yeah, back to the story recap. More or less, we team up with the Galaxy Ranger Acheron. We punch Adventuring super hard, so he gets on to the other side of the wall to find out secrets. And along the way, we and the rest of the Astral Express crew that are present get knocked out. And that's when we run into Sam, who is this giant mech that we ran into earlier. He's essentially a Kamen Rider. He's a part of the Celeron Hunters, who are this anti-hero faction that like are under the leadership of a guy named Elio, who is supposedly able to see the future and writes out scripts to kind of move the galaxy to a good ending in terms of a conflict with Nanook, the god of destruction, or the Aeon of Destruction, essentially. Is the basis of their story. But we run into them, and that is when we find out who they really are. We find out that they are, in fact, Firefly underneath the armor. And I will say this, Sam, I think, has like a good like 2 heads on Firefly in terms of their height, because magic fire armor, I don't care. This is just Kamen Rider Samus to me, and this is who I'm saving up my resources for to pull in the next patch, because they're going to be available next patch. But the most recent patch has us going to that other side of the wall, finding out the secrets in there, also finding out about the 3 former Trailblazers, former members of the Astral Express that were at the foundation of Penacony and helped form it, what happened to them, like the larger secrets, and then finally like the whole, more or less the end conflict that we've been building towards for the last 2 patches is what we solve here. But there is one more patch of story content for Penacony, and then there will be an epilogue patch. Essentially 2.3 is the end, 2.4 is an epilogue. But if anyone wants to hop in, the game is free to play. It's on PC, it's on mobile. I think you might be just too late to get Dr. Ratio for free, who was a free 5-star they gave out for the anniversary, because the game's only been out for a year. Yes, the guy's name is Dr. Ratio. Yes, he is just smarmy genius guy. But I really enjoy Honkai. It's very fun. Technically, this is like in the same multiverse of sorts of other Honkai games that MiHoYo have done, but you don't need to know any of that. The only reason people were bringing it up in Honkai Star Rail is because Acheron looks like a character from that multiverse of sorts. And that is about the best I can put it. But you don't need to know the specifics on that one.
Okay.
It's just kind of like, if you know, there's a little things here and there that like you'll pop for, but if not, it'll just sound like kind of just vague backstory stuff that is just, it gives flavor, but it's not important. But yeah, anywho, anything? That's all I had. Anything else before we move into news?
Mm-mm.
All right, then we kick off with Xbox. So this past week, Xbox has closed Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Games, in more or less an effort to make money back from their, I believe, what is it, $65 million they spent to acquire Activision Blizzard?
I think that sounds right.
Yes. This came out of nowhere. A lot of developers involved in these 4 studios and outside of these 4 studios, especially under the Microsoft banner, have went, fuck you too, Microsoft, I guess. This has caused an entire outrage and storm over this entire situation. No one, not a soul inside of Microsoft, have done a good job of trying to spin this. I forget, I think it's like Dave Booty. Do I have the article that quotes that? Oh, yes, I do. The next article. Dave Booty. This is, where is the quote? I need the quote. Article, give me the quote. I need the quote, because this is a really stupid good quote. This kind of encompasses the entire thing. Dave Booty, or Matt Booty, my bad, Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, quoted in saying this, saying, "A day after this happens, we need smaller games that give us prestige and awards."
Huh.
I will have you know, I forget the person, but one of the people at Tango Gameworks quote retweeted that quote from Matt Booty with 2 shelves worth of awards at their studio for Hi-Fi Rush.
You just can't make this shit up.
There's also, I forget her name, but one of the people, it's a woman at Xbox's executive level, was interviewed about this matter, and the interviewer literally asked her, like, hey, even if you are a successful, like, put out a very successful game and get closed down, how do you like more or less keep morale up if like even a successful studio like Tango Gameworks gets shut down in this? And she fucking just does not answer the question. Deflects, parries as hard as she can, and just moves on. What is worse about this is that this is probably not the end of it. Reports are that more layoffs are going to come now to core Xbox Game Studio departments. And I remind you, we are going to have an Xbox showcase in June, in less than a month.
They picked the worst fucking time to do this. I mean, I guess, you know what? Hang on. I take that back. I'll give them this. If they would have shown something off that one of those studios was making and then immediately shut them down, it would have been far fucking worse. So I'll give them that. It's the timing sucks, but I guess it kind of makes sense.
Supposedly reports that Arcane, I believe Arcane Austin, were pitching what sounds like a Dishonored 3, but was not confirmed to be Dishonored 3. It was something in that same genre as the Dishonored games.
I was about to say, I'll be honest, I don't think we need a new Dishonored.
It was at least something in the line.
Yeah.
In that genre, but it was not confirmed to be Dishonored 3. People are going to just assume it's Dishonored 3 because Arcane Austin.
Yeah.
Tango Gameworks were apparently seemingly working on Hi-Fi Rush 2 when this happened.
Now that's annoying. That's fucking annoying. Because Hi-Fi Rush, I know that it didn't get, I mean, it got praise, but it didn't get as much praise as I was hoping it would get. But that game was amazing. I ran into one glitch throughout my playthrough of playing that game. And it was a glitch that, honestly, I feel like every platformer ever has, where there's just the tiniest little frame skip and you fall through the fucking floor.
I will also point out that Hi-Fi Rush was the highest rated thing under Xbox's banner in terms of like first party stuff for the entirety of last year.
Yep.
It was practically the only thing they really got out the door last year. So yeah, Xbox has it's just done a lot of problems. And I've also found out really something fun about how Microsoft works with its employees and stuff. I wasn't able to verify this. I was listening to a podcast that was talking about this. Apparently, it is 80% contract work. 16 months of contract work before you are let go, and you're not allowed to work at Microsoft for 8 months. That is 80% of their workforce, apparently.
That doesn't surprise me.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What'd you say?
80% of Microsoft's workforce is contract based. It is 16 months on, 8 months off.
That,
It in the company period, not in departments, in specific Microsoft. Oh, 16 months working for Microsoft, 8 months not working for Microsoft, period.
well, I guess I don't know. I don't like contract work personally. I mean, I understand that it can be useful in certain aspects, and I understand that there are reasons for contract work, but I've never been a fan of contract work. I've always felt like if you need the work, just hire the just hire the party, and then at the end of it, if you don't need them anymore, say, hey, fun working with you, but we're done.
But yeah, more or less, if you're wondering where all of Microsoft's first party stuff are, that's part of the reason why. Because they don't have ingrained, like, stable workforce to get shit done. That seems to be a big problem at Microsoft right now.
But that also makes sense, because if you sit there and think about it, 16 months max kind of deal, with 8-month break between. That then deflects all kind of legal issues off of them. If you know it's contract work, and you know that at the end of the contract that you were out of it, guess what? They don't actually have to give you any kind of severance. They don't have to give you unemployment.
Additionally, reports have come out about, hey, you know that Perfect Dark reboot they were supposedly working on that we only ever got a CG trailer for like 2 years ago? It's in very rough shape.
Okay.
So does that mean it gets to join Prime 4?
Apparently, this was only in pre-production. It started pre-production last year.
Okay, I want to say this just as clarification. How long did it take Cyberpunk after they did the teaser? I like it was like what, 5 to 7 years? Now, I'm not saying give them a pass, but I am saying the reality of gaming development nowadays, especially at the level that Microsoft is trying to do, I feel like we can't just, oh, it's in rough shape after 2 years. Like, unfortunately, gaming development, from everything I've read, is a fucking rough going field.
Well, this is compounded upon all the other issues we're talking about with Microsoft. So it's like, oh, this probably is how a lot of things are going at Microsoft right now.
Yeah.
It's one thing if one project's in rough shape, but if Perfect Dark's in rough shape, what does that say about Fable that's apparently being worked on? What does it say about a Gears 6 or a Gears reboot that is apparently being worked on? What does that say for anything under Halo?
I will say this, again, in fairness, I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate for most of this show, and I'm okay with that. In fairness, Perfect Dark has been out of the limelight for a very long time at this point, while Gears is still Gears has surpassed Halo at this point because of the failure of a company that 343 is. Like, Gears has surpassed Halo. So I will not say Gears isn't...
I partially disagree with that, but okay.
Do you remember when Gears 5 came out?
I do.
And it would be?
It was pretty rough.
I meant when.
Oh, when Gears 5 came out? No, but
Yes.
I have played it, and I really enjoyed
2019, by the way.
Okay, so it's been about 5 years.
We have been a long way. That was the last Gears release, mind you. We have not had anything for Gears since then.
No, we had Gears Tactics. That came out not too long ago, and I'm pretty sure Gears Tactics was the same studio. Which also, Gears Tactics,
Okay, Gears
fantastic
Tactics
game.
a year later, okay.
And I know it's already been confirmed that they're working on Gears Tactics 2.
I thought a separate studio did that. I didn't realize. I figured they got some RTS studios to work on that. I didn't think that was in-house Coalition.
No, I'm pretty sure...
It's in-house Coalition, I checked.
Yeah, it's Splash Damage in conjunction with Coalition, but yes.
Oh, okay. So Coalition probably did supervisory work. Splash Damage probably did the majority of the work.
Yeah. But still, like, I think at this point, it needs to be said that Halo Infinite was not a good release.
It was better than Halo 5.
Oh, guaranteed. I don't think you can get any worse than Halo 5 was. Halo 4 did better than Halo 5, and Halo 4 was the first letdown that everybody was like, this sucks compared to all of Bungie's stuff.
But see...
Do I feel like the only person who will defend Halo 4 on a story level, at least? Because I feel like it at least tried something.
No,
Oh,
you're not
100%.
the only person, because I legitimately feel like the story for 4 is the last good thing that we've had for Halo.
Yeah,
The multiplayer
that's-
for 4 is the first bad thing we've had for Halo since 343 got it.
yes.
Yeah.
That I think is the problem with Halo 4. Halo 4 story is at least rooted in something, because I point to the GDC talk from the guy who wrote Halo 4, and he's like, this is a very personal story for me, because I was dealing with, I think his mom or his grandmother was dealing with Alzheimer's, and he used that to kind of like fuel the writing for Chief and Cortana and all that in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But no, 4 multiplayer is the problem there.
And I'm not saying that 4's story was bad. What I'm saying is it was nearly unanimously the internet raged because, you know, no one can compete with Bungie, and then Bungie released Destiny.
Okay. Destiny is the weird one there because base Destiny sucked. Their mid-life expansion actually kind of brought it back around for them to keep that momentum at the beginning of 2 to then screw it up to then try to claw back.
Yes.
I don't know how they pulled that off.
And now Bungie is in the position where a lot of their leadership is being questioned, and a lot of people of Destiny 2 are ready to go out the door when Final Shape is over. In like 2 months.
I mean, I don't listen. I'm not saying 343 is a bad company. I'm saying that they're a failure of a company, which I know that sounds similar, but they really are two different things. Because 343 did at least try to do something. A bad company would have just cash grabbed and said "fuck you" and taken everything that they could.
Okay, to this I'm gonna say I can't blame 343 for screwing up Halo. I can't blame Bungie for messing up with Destiny. You know why? The original Bungie team, the ones that made all of the Halos through Reach, guess what? They got split between the two.
Yeah, and just as an idea of like how things transition from 4 to 5, because there's a fantastic video by Ray Shafik on YouTube. He's done a whole series of like Halo so many years after from when the game's released.
Right.
His video on 5 literally explains everything, I feel like, because all of the head people that were leadership for Halo 4 were not at 343 when development started for Halo 5. You know who all got promoted to those leadership positions for Halo 5?
I'm scared to ask, honestly.
Everyone that worked on Spartan Ops.
That explains everything. Holy shit.
All the people who ran and made Spartan Ops are the people who were in charge of 5.
It makes so much sense.
Okay, but
oh my god.
But here's the screwed up part with that. Even Spartan Ops on its own wasn't bad.
Right.
How did they pull that off?
I will say this: Spartan Ops, while it's like the Star Wars movies, okay? It's like the Star Wars movies when it comes to the offshoots. Like, they can be
hot take inbound.
Hold on. They can be good on their own. For example, Rogue One, phenomenal movie. However, you take the people that made Rogue One and throw them into the mainline story and try to tell them to write the story, and it's not gonna fucking work. They're not connected to the story.
That checks out. That's fine. I don't think that's a hot take.
Oh, the moment you start throwing the Star Wars fandom into yeah, that's a hot take instantly.
I know. But I knew what I was saying wasn't going to be a hot take.
I'm sure it still managed to tick someone off.
Listen, there's always going to be someone on the internet that's pissed off. But at the end of the day, you can't take... Prime example, you can't take someone who does the stories for the books, right? For any fandom or any story, someone who does the story for the books that are completely separate. You can't take them and put them as a movie writer to write the story of the main plot. They're used to writing offshoots where they can go where they want to go. So they're going to try to do that for the movie, and it's not going to fucking work.
I think you're basically describing the transition of the sequel trilogy.
Yes. Yes. Precisely. I'll say again louder for the people that got a little bit pissed off so they can get more pissed
I
off.
revert back to
Yes.
previous comment.
Anywho.
Look, I will say this to defend myself just a little bit. I won't say that the sequel trilogy is terrible. I just personally have qualms with the movies. I think the stories could have been great, but I just think that the story that they took was not... They had a decent story, but they didn't portray it right. Does that make sense?
I forget the person that made the video, but there's a person on YouTube that has this really great video about how the sequel trilogy is the anti-trilogy.
Yeah.
Each of the movies are the anti-thing, essentially, because essentially Force Awakens is anti-prequels.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the prequels. It is so much the original trilogy. It's kind of ridiculous how much it is the original trilogy. But then The Last Jedi is anti that.
Okay. I want to say this, and I want y'all's opinions. I'm sure y'all have seen the movies. Just real quick. Take the exact story from those movies. The exact story. But Rey is not the main character. Kylo is the main character. Am I losing it when I say that the story would have been more well put together if it was from Kylo's perspective?
There could be something there, but I think you lose something about Kylo as a villain in the process.
Not really. I mean, look at the games for a prime example. Look at the games, how Knights of the Old Republic treats Revan. Now, granted, you have a bit more control over the character, but what I'm saying is, if you go the evil route and assume that is the story, it still plays out really well. And I don't think you lose anything for Kylo. As a matter of fact, I think there's a bit more respect for Kylo as a character because of his transition over into being a hero versus a villain.
Okay.
And I also think Rey should have absolutely gone the opposite route and gone Sith.
Well, anything else before we move on from Microsoft? Just away from Microsoft a lot.
I'm sorry. We devolved so hard. It's mostly my fault. I'm not here normally.
Shall we tell me then what they have done this last week?
Am I? Is Peace robotic for
Yes.
you too, Tommy? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just gonna wait because I have no indicator for when it stops.
Hey, there we go.
I mean,
Okay,
you
that's
do
fine.
have an indicator for when it stops. It's called the thing symbol down at the bottom.
Oh, I wasn't looking at that at the moment. Okay, so Sony, Helldivers 2 has been a massive success for them. Just in 6 months of release, it has been pretty much their biggest title of the year at the moment. But then Sony has decided for PC players that they are required to have a PSN account, which caused a whole lot of problems. So essentially, a ton of people review bombed the game on Steam because the problem is PSN does not exist in about over 150 countries. meaning that all those people that bought Helldivers 2 in those countries would lose access to the game. And as per policy, Steam offered them immediate refunds regardless of how many hours they put into the game. Now, bear in mind, a lot of these countries are probably don't have a huge number of people that would be buying Helldivers 2. Like, let me pull up.
In fairness to that argument, the main problem is the fact that you are ripping a certain portion of the fan base from their ability to play. And as a fan, like, imagine if they did something similar with Halo. Imagine if there was a whole group of people, no matter how big or small, and let's say you're friends with a few of those people. Let's say you play with them, you may not talk to them, maybe there's a language barrier, but y'all can play the game and have fun. Because that's the crazy thing about video games, is it brings us together in ways that movies and books sometimes can't.
Also, I'm just going to put this out there. Halo might not be the best example because it kind of already does this.
Okay, but Microsoft went from the start and did it, is what I'm saying. Like, I can't think of another game that's done this same thing. This is a new phenomenon. Like, that's what's so wild about it. But
by the way, I put a map.
Yeah.
I have a visual representation, which is essentially 90% is Africa.
Robotic-y again.
Yeah, you're a little bit robotic. But, like, you have to understand that you are ripping an entire portion of the world away from being able to play a game that they have already cemented themselves into. They have already put in countless hours. Imagine having a game... a prime example, even though it's not really the same reason, is Brink. I don't know if either of y'all remember Brink, but Brink was a multiplayer game back when sole multiplayer games were not a thing and everybody was pissy about it. I thought the game was phenomenal, but over time the servers closed and now you can't play it. So the fan base is not able to play it because I don't think there's even fan servers up for it.
I feel like we've played Brink because I think I own Brink.
Yeah.
On Steam.
I'm pretty sure we've played it, but it was one of those games that it really was the definition of ahead of its time. And I think the reality is, yeah, so is Helldivers. But what they're doing is they are taking that fan base, even if it's not the entire fan base, they're taking part of that fan base and saying, you are not worth anything to us, and tossing it. Not the developers, Sony, because the developers were on the player side. But Sony just took that entire portion of the fan base and said, you are not worth our time. Get fucked.
Yes, and now they're trying to do this again for Ghost of Tsushima because of the small portion of that game that is online based. For some reason. Like, why? For what?
If it is something that is only required to be able to play Legends, okay, maybe I can understand it. Maybe. It's a heavy maybe. But if they're saying that you have to have the account to just play Ghost of Tsushima single player, that's fucking absurd.
I think regardless, Steam will not allow the game to be sold in that country because a portion of the content of that game is locked out because of that. So they won't sell the game on that storefront outright. I think that's Steam's policy in general. Which is why the Switch immediately got flipped on Steam over this, and they immediately offered refunds.
Yeah. And I will say, the main thing that gets me is some of the arguments that I've heard in Sony's favor. Oh, but Microsoft did the same thing with Sea of Thieves. No, they didn't, because they came out the gate before they ever started anything and said, from the beginning, the second this is sold, you have to have an account. So for Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, okay. Sony is coming out the gate saying you have to have an account. So as much as it sucks, at least they're doing it right there the same way Microsoft did it with Sea of Thieves. But doing it with Helldivers was so far out of left field that is the entire reason so many people were pissed. I think while Ghost of Tsushima, that situation does suck, especially for the people in those countries, reality is Ghost of Tsushima is a first party. Helldivers isn't. So the developers at least should have a bit more say with Helldivers, but the developers of Ghost of Tsushima, Sucker Punch, if I remember correctly, I think you told me yes earlier, they have to abide by what Sony says, and if Sony says jump, they say how high. That's just the reality of being literally owned by a developer or by a publisher. The same as any company that's under Tencent. Whatever the fuck Tencent says, that's what goes.
I was trying to find a list of not supported countries for Xbox Live while you were talking, and I can't seem to find one. I can find countries with it, but I can't find countries without it.
I know there is quite a few countries that are not supported with Xbox Live. But
I got a list of 95 that have it, I believe. Maybe.
Right.
No. That's the list with, not without, which is what I'm after.
Yeah, the only reason I know the only reason I have this strong opinion about this is because I've talked to friends about this and we've had long discussions about it, and it's very much a situation of this would have been fine if it was directly out of the gate. If you don't live in a zone, if you want to play the game, you need an account. If it would have been directly out of the gate from the start, and a fan base was not allowed to be created in those countries, this would not have been an issue. Which also sucks to say, but it's the reality of the situation, because if it was never allowed to be sold in those countries, there would have been no fan base there. But since the sign-in requirement was not there, these fan bases were able to be created, and it blew the fuck up more than the developers ever thought it would. I mean, this is like literally the definition of a breakout hit, at least in my opinion. It was what, 6 months, and to see a massive internet outcry this way, like this, from a developer that, as far as I know, hasn't released any other big games like this. Like,
not even Helldivers 1 was this big.
Yeah,
I think it might be their only game.
It might be. It very well might be. So for this to be as big of a hit as it was, Sony should have known damn well to not bite the hand that feeds. Because they're making fucking big bucks off of this game.
This is their 5th game, mind you. Well, Arrowhead Game Studios, by the way, for the studio's names. This is their 5th game. Their others are Magicka, The Showdown Effect, Gauntlet, Helldivers, and then Helldivers 2.
I'm sorry, Gauntlet?
Yes.
Are we talking...
2014 release under WB Games.
Oh, okay.
Or WB Games
Never
published.
mind. Never mind. I was about to say, because there is a long list of Gauntlet games, because Gauntlet's
They've only existed since 2008, and they're a Swedish company.
Okay, I was about to say, Gauntlet's from 1985. You got to be a bit more specific.
I believe this is Gauntlet reboot.
Okay.
Or a Gauntlet reboot.
Okay. So, yeah, a company like that has not made a hit, to have a breakout hit of this caliber out of fucking nowhere, Sony should have left it damn well alone, because they're making a killing off of this. Not only are they making a killing off of this, they're getting fans in countries that they have no ability to be a part of, which means they might actually be able to take that and say, hey, how do we get coverage to these countries for other games? This could have been a door opening for them, but instead they decided to shut the fucking door on somebody's fingers.
And I think Sony was going to push harder for live service games, but then went, oh fuck, no, maybe we shouldn't do that. Because an article that I dropped was WB earnings call where they said that Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League was a disappointment.
Okay. There are several reasons why that game is a fucking shit show.
Yes.
As much as I'm not a fan of live service games, I do not think it's because it was a live service game. I think they made a fucking looter shooter out of a game that never should have been a fucking looter shooter. With none of the good aspects of looter shooters.
I just point to the, and I will get the full timestamp, full length of this video for real quick, because the opening 20 minutes of it I think are really good. Monty Xander on Twitter, a 3.5 hour deep dive into Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The opening portion of this he had as a separate video, kind of as a preview for what the video was going to be, gets into the history of live service games. That, guess who started that one? Essentially Destiny.
Yep.
Technically, really, Destiny was the start of it, because Destiny is like the only one like it that was ever like marketed without those two words attached to it. It wasn't until after Destiny that everyone attached live service to their marketing. But it goes over the history of live service games, and oh boy, does it feel like it's on repeat after a while.
I mean, because it essentially is. It's the same shit. That's the big problem. Destiny was okay after a while. But the reality is, live service games are not the kind of games that release well, ever. And for a game like that to come from a studio like Rocksteady, where every game they've released, even if it was released in relatively poor condition, looking at you, Arkham Knight, it's still a game that at its core, everything is there. The story is there. Live service games, that's just not the case.
I think my saying is that no live service game ever has a good first year.
Ding, ding, ding.
They all struggle in their first year.
Fucking nail head. Exactly. But the problem is, Rocksteady is not experienced with multiplayer in any aspect. As far as I'm aware, their biggest games that they've made, I might be wrong about this, but are the Arkham trilogy, and they're not multiplayer games. They're not even fucking close.
I was about to say I think the only studio there with multiplayer experience in terms of, Batman related would technically be WB Montreal. Because I believe, doesn't Arkham Origins have some sort of multiplayer aspect?
It had something, I don't remember, but
yeah, they're the ones with it, and they're also the ones that made Gotham Knights,
which failed spectacularly.
Which seemed like it was almost a live service game until they went, oh fuck, shit, rip it out, and then they ripped out all the live service stuff as much as they could, but you can smell it on the game.
Yep. I mean, and Gotham Knights had the same fucking issue that Kill the Justice League has. It's trying to be a live service while not giving any of the good shit that people talk about with live services. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is literally the epitome of a fucking looter shooter from the start. What is the best thing about fucking Borderlands? What is the best thing about Borderlands?
The unique guns that do very unique things.
I'm sorry, did you say unique? I thought you said all of them needed to be generic and the exact fucking same. it's fine. We'll just update it to where something has a slight difference. And that'll be the big difference between all of our weapons in everything Suicide Squad has.
You say that in the video I was talking about makes that direct comparison. Verbatim.
Because that's one of the biggest things. You say looter shooter, and what does everyone immediately fucking point to? Borderlands. Literally every single time. I cannot think of a better explanation for a phenomenal looter shooter. Now, granted, Borderlands 3 didn't do so hot, but it still fucking excelled compared to these games. Because for some reason, the people that want to make looter shooters the people that want to make looter shooters or looters in general don't understand that uniqueness of gear is the fucking epitome of this genre. Not to mention that the Kill the Justice League story was meh, in my opinion. And it sucks because that was the last thing that the voice actor for Batman was ever in. Was this?
That is actually not true. Kevin Conroy did do voice work for other stuff before after that game. So
really,
because he's Kevin Conroy does voice work for Batman. For I think specifically animated series Batman for the Crisis on Infinite Earth animated movies that are coming out right now.
No shit. Hey, okay, I'll watch those. But I didn't know that. I assumed this was the last thing he was ever in, and for it to be a subpar excuse for a fucking game is kind of a spit on his name, you know? And that's fucked.
All right. I guess anything else before we move to the Nintendo?
Nah, not really. Sorry for going on a rant again. I'm very talkative today.
All right, Nintendo. First up, a quick little shorty one. We have Nintendo World Championship NES Edition coming to Switch in July. Would you like to do some speedrun challenges? Here you go. Here's 150 of them across 13 NES games. Compete against your friends and stuff.
What games?
I think it's like original SMB, Kid Icarus, probably Ice Climbers, I would think. I think like more or less like, Zelda, Metroid. I don't think we have a game list, unfortunately. No, we do not have a list. I think it's like the 13 games you'd probably expect for something like this. Let's see what I can spot in the trailers. Let's see. Excite Bike, Ice Climbers, Balloon Fight, SMB 3, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, SMB 2, that might be whichever Kirby game is on the NES. I forget which one it is.
I don't think you said SMB1, but SMB1 is definitely in that screenshot at the top there. So
yeah, SMB. So SMB 1, 2, and 3. I guess Donkey Kong, because that's one of the pins. Is Donkey Kong from? So, Donkey Kong. I forget which Donkey Kong's on NES. I assume it's the original.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I point this out because expect this to be the lineup for the rest of the year, because in their earnings call, which everyone complained about it being at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, yes, it's in 4 o'clock in the morning because it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Japan. That's how time zone works, people. Congratulations, you have pointed out the obvious and trying to make a joke about it. Nintendo have confirmed that they are working on a Switch 2, and it will be announced by March of next year. Additionally, there is a Nintendo Direct in June, but, especially for everyone up in Rosie, so they can hear this loud and clear, it will not have have news on the Switch 2. It will just be material for the rest of the year. Are we all on the same page on that? Yes? Good. I don't want to see people get mad at the Direct next month when there is no Switch 2 announcement because Nintendo told you a month in advance there is no Switch 2 announcement in June. Okay? Okay.
And then cue the Switch 2 announcement next month at the Direct.
It will be the month after.
Because I am so waiting on that because, you know, we normally don't get them flat out calling out saying it's not going to be there.
Some other additional quick notes. The Switch has sold 141.32 million units, making it the third highest grossing console ever. Just behind, out of curiosity, do you two know?
No.
Quick little quiz game. Who
say
do you think
at
number
least-
one is?
I'd say at least one of the top two would be the Wii. Because I feel like I've seen something saying the Switch has not outsold the Wii yet. Really?
The Wii is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th at 101. Glock, do you care to guess who is number one?
Is this all Nintendo consoles?
No, this is console period. Every console's on the table.
I'm going to guess PlayStation 2.
Correct. PlayStation 2 is number one at 155 million approximately, I believe. It might be more than 155 million. Simply because it was like the cheapest DVD player at the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it sold so many. Now, can you guess number two?
Ooh.
I will tell you that they are at 154.02 million units sold.
Well, the PlayStation 3 was a shit show, so I'm not going to say the 3. Number 2. Ooh, that's a hard one.
I almost think, though, it has to either be like the PS3 or the 360.
I would say 360.
And I have to say it's because of the length of time that both consoles were in existence.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say 360 because the PS3 I remember being a shit show.
But there was so much hype behind the PS3 also. You got to keep that in mind.
Oh shit, you're right.
On both accounts, actually. PlayStation 3 is just behind the Wii at 87.4 million. 360 is behind that at 84 million.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it a Nintendo console?
Yes.
64.
Nope.
No?
You're going too far back. We wouldn't have that many technically.
Fair.
Also,
Well, it wouldn't be the GameCube, even though the GameCube absolutely fucking deserved
It
it.
wouldn't be the GameCube.
I would say it's not the N64. That did 32.93.
I have
And the GameCube did 21.74.
I have two guesses, but I think I'm leaning towards the first one more. DS?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
What's your other guess?
My other was going to be 3DS, because I figured it had to be one of those two.
3DS is 75.94. In fact, number 4 is the Game Boy / Game Boy Color at 118. 5th is the PS4 at 117.
Yeah. That makes sense.
For your other current competitors, the PlayStation or current consoles, the PlayStation 5 is at 50. The Xbox X / Series X is approximately 21. And the Quest 2, if you desire to count that, is 20.
Oh.
You laugh, but that's more than the Wii U sold.
And the Stadia is at
Damn.
0.
It fucking should be.
The Stadia is not even on this list.
Because it
Good.
don't exist anymore.
I was like, is the Stadia on this list? Control F. Nope. Also, by the way, that the Switch being 141, that is a comfortable one because Game Boy Color is 118. That is a very comfortable third place. But yeah, that should give you an idea of how well the Switch has done. They're also projecting to get 14 more million units sold, or 14 million more units sold by next year, which would put it at the top, approximately. Or at the very least, it will surpass Game Boy, or surpass the DS.
Ooh.
That is their projection, mind you. Whether or not it happens is a question for next year.
I think I know what they're gonna do.
If you say cross-platform releases, I would say yes, that would get them there.
Uh-huh. They're gonna be pushing everything. I have a feeling that's coming out the rest of the year as coming out on the Switch now and coming out on the Switch 2 on release.
Because bear in mind,
Because the Switch's downfall was lack of games at launch. So I could foresee them saying stuff like that to try to boost Switch 2 sales when it comes out too.
So just as an idea of where we currently stand on talk, rumors, leaks, the whole shebang about Switch 2. There's been a lot of talk recently. Here is what I'm going to pull CentraLeak's tweet on this because I think they've consolidated a lot of the information into one tweet, thankfully. So it will have an 8-inch screen, LCD at least, on one launch model. It will have a DLSS version 3.5 to improve performance and support ray tracing. 12 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM. 250 gigs of UFS 3.1 internal storage, will use magnets to attach the new Joy-Cons in some way, will be completely backwards compatible with original Switch games, physical and digital, and will connect via Bluetooth to original Joy-Cons and Pro controllers. 4K support while docked, uses NVIDIA's new Tegra T239. This is what they have saying all but confirmed at this current moment.
And that sounds right because the magnets has been a recurring theme I've heard for the Joy-Cons.
Yes, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, I believe.
And I think I've seen other articles too.
Because that came out because other companies that make the third-party supported like controllers and stuff had hands-on time and a black box with the Switch 2. I don't. Did you hear about that?
It makes sense that they're going with magnets, and the only reason I say that is because first gen Switches, the only reason that you can jailbreak them is because of having access to the pins that the Joy-Cons attach to.
Yeah, the magnet situation, Glock, for you, since you weren't there from when we talked about this a few weeks back. Apparently, those third-party companies that make the officially supported like peripherals and stuff and those extra controllers and all that for consoles, they got to go hands-on with the Switch 2, but they could only feel it within an enclosed black box. They could not see the Switch 2, but they could feel it to get an idea of how to make their stuff.
What?
Yes, that is the story that went around a few weeks back.
Okay.
My worry with everything is the last part of what you said about the specs for it.
Yes.
It having a new NVIDIA chip. For those that don't remember, the Switch was running a new NVIDIA chip at the beginning. Hence why the jailbreaking was able to be done. apparently Nintendo did not fully learn the lesson. So we're gonna go ahead and repeat this, because I would venture to say first gen Switch 2s are probably gonna be able to be jailbroken fairly easy.
Mm-hmm. Other potential leaks that Central has control list here. They're apparently going to be an integrated microphone. We're looking at a March 2025 launch, which might be them saying announced by March 2025, and the earnings call might be just to cover themselves.
I think it will be.
We'll have it announced by then. Secretly, we'll have it launched by then, assuming nothing happens.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, with the Switch, didn't we get like a soft announcement mid-year with the proper reveal at that E3?
Yes. Let me see if I can find the date on that trailer.
And it also released in March of its release year. Meaning, I think we're probably going to follow the same pattern. We're probably going to get some kind of soft talk about it at the next Direct, but it's not going to be anything more than we're going to probably get an actual name instead of calling it Switch 2.
The reveal trailer was October 20th, 2016.
So then I am wrong on that. Then we got the soft with Breath of the Wild stuff.
Yes.
That's when we actually got the name. So we might not get nothing next month in Direct.
Yeah.
It might be the following Direct we at least get the name then.
Because they keep calling it the Switch successor. So we still don't have a name. We're all just calling it Switch 2 because we have no better name for this thing.
But it won't be the Switch successor. For those that don't remember, the Switch definitely was not the 3DS or the Wii U's successor. Which one still has an active eShop? I think it's its successor at this point.
I think neither eShop is active at this point, actually.
The Switch's eShop is still active.
Oh, I thought you meant of the Wii U and the 3DS. Okay, never mind. Let's see. Sega, Atlas, Capcom, EA, Bandai Namco, Square Enix, and Koei Tecmo are going to immediately support the new console. New physical cartridge format, probably the cartridge format we know with a nub attached to it, therefore you can't slam the thing into the Switch. Because that's what they did for the DS, the 3DS.
Yeah.
Size of the console will be between the original Switch and a Steam Deck, closer to the ROG Ally, which I believe is from Asus, because that's their Republic of the Gamers moniker. We'll use new micro SD expansion cards for expandable storage, so your current micro SD cards may not work. The new SD format will launch later this year and will be more expensive. Initially, these cards will be limited to 256 gigs. Lastly, other rumors that need more sources: a new button on the back of each Joy-Con, a new button below the home button, a kickstand will have a dampening bracket, and Pokemon is already working on 3 projects for the new console. Presumably, we know exactly what one of those are because that's going to be A to Z, or the new Legends game, presumably. Since
which will probably dual release with less, or with more performance issues on the base Switch.
Yes. And then I have a Reddit thread that is a whole bunch of other stuff. Essentially, EPD3, which is the Zelda team, are presumed to have moved on to a new team, but there is no specific word on if they're working on anything at the moment. I know a current rumor went around that there is a Zelda protagonist Zelda game, if that makes sense, in the works, but I don't know who that is from.
Well, at the same time, I doubt we're going to have another Zelda game right out the rip. I actually kind of would foresee us having a Mario game launch with the Switch too.
Yeah, because I was saying in like the Soda Pop Discord that like we'll probably see Prime 4 at launch, and they're like, oh, Prime 4 is not a big seller, and I'm like, Nintendo keeps stalling this one because they want more games at launch. It doesn't matter if Metroid isn't like a double-digit $1 million seller. It's at least a single-digit $1 million seller of them.
Okay.
Because I checked the numbers, and Dread did 5 million in sales.
Okay, here's gonna be what's gonna determine coming straight out the rip for the Switch 2. One, how many of the consoles they're going to be able to make.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not going to be able to make much, I think Prime 4 is probably the reason we're not seeing it till March of next year.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not that, and they actually just pushed it back to make sure the production was up high enough for it, then I honestly foresee a Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the make or break. If they say that Prime 4 is the only thing that's going to come out at launch, they're not planning on having many of them out.
Yeah. Also, I linked the Reddit post for all the... It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I just zeroed in on the thing down here that talked about Monolith Soft real quick.
I do think if it's going to be a big release as far as production goes, I think we'll probably see Mario and Prime 4.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try to drive that a little harder.
Yeah.
But I honestly think we're only going to see one or the other. I don't think we're going to see both. The only way I think we're going to see both is if they have, like, I don't know, the Switch is 141 million as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
If they have like 30 million units they're ready to disperse kind of deal, I might could see them pushing both. Because that would be equivalent to about a year kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't foresee that being the case.
Yeah, the Monolith Soft portion here, but because I'm interested in the Xenoblade games because I love them. One thing they have like here is because of things in Future Regime, it's suggesting a Xenoblade X remaster. And I don't think that's quite accurate from what I know about Future Regime and how it works in certain things. It's not referencing Xenoblade X, it's referencing Xenosaga. So it's the suggestion that Xenosaga is getting a remaster, not Xenoblade X. Just to point it out there. From my understanding of everything, I could be wrong there. I have no idea. I know people have been banging on about a Xenoblade X remaster for an eternity, and I'm like, look, they have to remake the game from the ground up, so it's less a remaster and more a remake at that point, because it's that amount of work to get the damn thing running on the Switch, so... Anyway. Ooh.
It truthfully wouldn't surprise me. You know, they're expecting, you said 14 million more?
Yes.
By the end of the year?
By March of next year, essentially.
Basically the end of the year.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if next Direct we actually do find, if they're going to push Prime 4 as a potential launch title, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't start seeing more Prime remakes.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to push all of that together beforehand.
There's a couple notes in here on that stuff. It is a big chunk, I think.
Because I could see Prime 2 remake being, honestly, probably shadow dropped. It's been enough time between Prime 1 and 2 now, kind of deal. I could see it being a shadow drop with a potential announcement of Prime 3 remaster coming later this year. And then that would essentially complete the trilogy so that anyone that hasn't played them or wants to refresh would be ready before Prime 4 comes out.
Yes.
It's one of those, it wouldn't surprise me if that didn't get shadow dropped, or if it wasn't a case of we don't hear anything here, and then come October we get the entire trilogy shadow dropped.
Mm-hmm.
With like a discount for anyone that already got Prime Remaster.
Yeah. It is probably the biggest thing that I think people are looking for, because, you know, 2/3 of the big three are shit in the bed, whereas Nintendo are just quietly chugging along, and we're all just kind of like watching the clock, waiting on them to just drop the other shoe on us, proverbially, with this Switch 2.
Which is funny because as far as everyone console wars this, console wars that, everyone says Nintendo's losing, but are they? Are they really? They just figured out how they just figured out how to pivot and say, you know what, Jens can have your console wars. We're just going to do our thing.
I think initially, yes, they were, because the Wii U was an absolute disaster. They came back with the Switch. That's where I'm saying they came back with the Switch, and instead of worrying about competing with the other two, they were like, hey, we're just gonna focus on our own thing again, because that's what we were good at back then. That's what we're probably still good at. We're just gonna focus on us, and that's what they needed to do, and that's why they're winning now.
You do realize that as far as being an active participant in the console wars, Nintendo's last true entry to that was the GameCube. When they realized the Wii could be used as a fitness machine instead, they decided to pivot hard at that point. The Wii U failed because the people that were wanting a gaming system heard Wii U and thought Wii 2.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened with that one.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
Nintendo's kind of just done their own thing for a while.
But yeah, it will be a very interesting E3 season, because, well, we know Nintendo's got their showcase, and we know Microsoft's got their showcase, is whatever the fuck they're gonna try to show at this point.
You mean showcase season, because E3 is not a thing anymore.
I call it E3 season because legacy, essentially. It's why all these things exist to start with. It has essentially become E3. Collectively is all this stuff.
It's funny that, you know, Nintendo was one of the first to start to opt out of the whole press conference thing, and now everyone has copied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it so much funny. So funny that everyone wants to give Nintendo all kinds of crap, except for the other ones that everyone's behind. Looked at what Nintendo's doing and was like, that's actually a smart idea.
Yep. Why do you think Microsoft and Sony had movement-based peripherals?
It's one of those every time. Well, why do you think Microsoft's trying to do the Xbox Play Anywhere? That way you can play Xbox games on your phone.
Yeah.
A phone. The Switch has turned into... The Switch's eShop has turned into the biggest bulk of what I would deem mobile games ever.
Yeah, it's a big old platter of mobile shovelware.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Anywho, any other thoughts before we hit our happy last little fun article?
No, not really.
Nah.
All right, then. For those that are not familiar with him, Maximilian Dude is one of those Twitch and YouTube folks. He's a big FGC person. He is also a big Final Fantasy VII person, so he's big into the remake and rebirth and all that hoopla. But he has commissioned one of the big Marvel vs. Capcom modders to give Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite a new look. And you can see that look in the image above and in the tweet below. And it is night and fucking day, I tell you what. The game looks a lot better than it used to. And this is an in development kind of thing. But it has gotten a ton of people excited and a ton of people interested in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, because not only is this possible in terms of all of this, if they can crack the game open further, they might be able to start tweaking some gameplay stuff, maybe make the Infinity Gems, or the Infinity Stones, maybe something different, something better. Maximilian Dude. Oh, it's the last article. Oh, do you not have it? Oh, you don't have access to the articles.
No.
I mean, yes, he does.
I do?
On the website.
I haven't been on the website in forever. I have to...
There's a direct link.
Thank you. Okay, you can continue. I'll catch up when I get there.
But yeah, Maximilian Dude has a couple videos on his YouTube talking about this and talking about where they could go with this, what they can try to do. It has been hilarious to see him and the modder. Let me get their name real quick. Wistful Hopes, or at Wistful Hopes, more or less being interviewed by all the big gaming outlets and stuff, and just being like, "Oh, hey, I'm in that article. That's cool." But I guess, any thoughts on this at all?
No, I mean, I'm always a sucker for cel-shaded stuff, because it always seems like cel-shaded games never really lose their quality over time.
The project really is to try to go, okay, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was a good place. Let's get it more in line with that, but still be its own thing. Because gameplay-wise, from my understanding, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is still fairly good. It's just looks like dog shit. And this is a big thing to push and try to get the game to look not like dog shit anymore. And then hopefully to maybe tweak the game some and get it looking better.
Well, what I was kind of getting at with the cel-shaded, I'm gonna use this as an example, but honestly, look at Wind Waker and its HD remake. Can you truly tell there was an HD upscale with it?
I think my example is Okami. It's not technically shell shading, but it's in that same vein. That game looks gorgeous on PS2 or its HD version.
Whereas you take a look at a comparison in the opposite way, Twilight Princess and its HD remake, and I feel fine given that comparison, seeing as how both games and their remakes were both on the same platform. Twilight Princess, you can tell a night and day difference. Base Twilight Princess aged like crap. Base Wind Waker didn't. Both remasters are good.
Glock, you were gonna say something?
I will say this for cel shaded. Look at a game like, and this is an old game at this point. Ultimate Spider-Man. The entire game was cel shaded, but even now you can go back and play it, and it is not an eyesore. This game came out in 2005. Almost 20 years ago, and the game, minor tweaks to it, and it could probably be released today.
And that's kind of why I'm always a sucker for cel-shaded stuff, because it kind of cements the game in this ageless kind of mentality.
Yeah, and it's wild how well it works. because it's just, there are very few art styles, especially with things like movies, video games, moving types of art. There are very few styles that really stand the test of time, and cell shaded is one of them.
I love that we all of our picks are only within a few years of each other.
Yep.
Just to put it out there.
Yep.
Because Tommy's is 2003, yours is 2005, mine is 2006. It
truly is. It really is just a phenomenal way of saying, like, yeah, no, this art style just works for you. You could take obviously it depends on the video game, but you could take several video games that are old now. If you were to make them cell shaded, they wouldn't look as old at all.
Okay. You know, talking about how much cell shading can help a game too. Look at Borderlands.
Borderlands is a prime example. The first Borderlands still looks good.
It's one of those, if this mod is finished properly, I could see this being something that 10, 15, even 20 years down the road, people are like, yeah, I'm going to play this game, but it's going to be with this mod.
Yeah. I mean, and even you bringing up Borderlands is only 3 years difference from yours, which was 2006. Borderlands came out in 2009.
To give a before and after comparison, there is Dante before these changes, and here's Dante after the changes.
Oh, dear God.
Oh,
yeah.
There is a massive difference. Holy hell.
Yeah, that left is vanilla infinite Dante. Right is what this mod has done to Dante.
You know what? I love the fact that the character is cell shaded and the weapons are not. I don't know, it does something.
It almost, granted, I mean, I think it's because of source material, makes it kind of feel odd, but it doesn't feel bad.
I think it's probably because you can get at the character models, but getting at the weapons might be a whole other thing because they're off somewhere else in the files.
That's fair. But I personally, I like it, weirdly enough. I think it's one of those things that it's almost like you could very easily argue that that's just an artistic choice rather than it being something that is a limit on his part. You could very easily argue this away as an artistic choice of making the weapons and the environments more grounded in reality while the characters are cell shaded and comic.
I'm trying to find their Venom comparison because people were all on board the Venom comparison because is that the best we can? That might be the best picture for it. Because if you know a certain Spider-Man series, you will recognize what they did for Venom off the bat.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That is animated series Venom because of the coloration and stuff. They kind of ended up there accidentally. Max wasn't super on board, but enough people were like, "Yes, please." And he's like, "Fine, we'll make that the one-player costume." But I think they I think this is like 2-player Venom essentially. So here's like a 2-player costume Venom essentially. That's more like full black and white instead of the red and blue stuff that from the animated series.
That's unfortunate. The first one.
They're both there, mind you. It's a 1-player, 2-player situation.
Yeah.
Which that almost looks like that almost looks on par with the Shattered Dimensions Venom suit kind of deal.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of good with that one as well.
I will also point out that there's been huge strides in doing new characters in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Not just like putting in new characters that are new skins, but using a lot of different moves and assets and stuff from other characters to kind of make them work. There's been a lot of work to get new assets and new animations and stuff for new characters. And I believe all that can work for Infinite. Because I believe we're working with the same architecture and stuff. So that can be like the next step. Because essentially a lot of the same people that are, I think Wistful Hopes has also done Marvel vs. Capcom 3 new characters. He might be one of the people. But I know there's a group of people that have done a lot of work for new characters in 3. And if this takes off well, you might see new characters in Infinite as well in this same style that weren't present on the original roster. Maybe even characters who were in 3 but didn't carry over to Infinite. So it's big and exciting times if you care about this. It also helps that I think Infinite is like $20 right now. Like it's like $20, $30 for the whole package.
Yeah.
But any other thoughts?
Not that I can think of.
All right, then releases, because that's all we have for articles this week. Where to begin?
Oh, I mean, we can be a crab digger.
Sure, Crab Digger Tropical Island for the Switch coming out on May 12th. Neptunia Game Maker R Evolution for PS4, 5, and Switch coming out May 14th. Because I know about the Neptunia games, and I feel like I have to mention them every now and again, because I am burdened with cursed knowledge, I guess. Those are the games, for those wondering, that have the more or less magical girls that are themed after the big consoles, the various consoles and stuff. It's meta. I've wanted to try one just for the curiosity of it all.
And how did that go for you?
I have not yet, mind you. But I want to, because I want to see where this dumb thing goes.
I mean, do you really?
Look, I'm willing to dive into some stuff just to find out if it's good or not. Showing that at me does not scare me. You gotta try hard to scare me. All right, let's see. On the 15th, please fix the road for Xbox One and Series X. We skip around on the releases because I got tired of reading out of the releases, so we just skip around to find the interesting ones.
No, that's fair. I'm just, please fix the road.
Because, I mean, you know, if we didn't skip around, then it would totally match another game that comes out on the 15th. Time Trap.
Oh, Time Trap Hidden Objects Remastered for Xbox One and Series X, since you mentioned it. Let's see. On the 16th, 3 Minutes Mystery 2 for Switch. Pinball FX Pacific Rim Pinball for Switch. And also Please Fix the Road for PS4, 5, and Switch.
Okay. That was one of those, I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't one of those up there? No. Okay.
Let's see. On the 17th, My Little Pony, A Zephyr Heights Mystery for Xbox One, Series X, PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch. Slave Zero X for PlayStation 5 and Switch. I mentioned this because one of the folks I follow really loves Slave Zero X. It's a really good beat 'em up. Let's see. On the 19th, Toon Racing for Switch. On the 21st, Hybrid Neptunia Rebirth 1, 2, and 3 are all on Switch. Along with Neptunia Sister vs. Sisters for Xbox One and Series X. Senmon Saga's Hellblade 2 for Xbox Series X, which, by the way, has gotten no marketing even though it comes out in a week. System Shock, also for Xbox One, Series X, PlayStation 4, and 5. I believe that's the new System Shock. That is good. On the 22nd, Cards RPG, The Misty Battlefields for Switch.
I'm sorry, Cars RPG?
Cards, Kards, all with.
Okay.
periods after the letters. So it's KARDS, technically, RPG.
You mean C?
Oh.
Or C. I can't read. We've established this. On the 23rd, let's see, Crazy Stunt Driver Extreme Racing Simulator for Switch. I missed one in deleting it. Fantastic. Paper Mario 1000 Year Door remake for Switch. On the 24th, Fighter Z for PlayStation 5 and Xenoverse 2 for Series X and PlayStation 5 for Dragon Ball fans. Some Atari 2600 and 7000 limited edition re-releases of Fatal Run and Food Fight. Hellblade Web of Weird Collector's Edition for Switch. Ninja Golf for Atari 2600 and 7800. And Cat Warrior for Switch on the 25th to round us out. But that'll do it for tonight. Tomorrow, we continue the race.
Yeah.
All I will say is, people, if you saw my side of it, you know where I'm at currently, and that is all I will say.
No.
Are you about to finish something?
Maybe.
I figured.
Maybe. Next Thursday, I continue Chrono Trigger. Next Friday, we're doing a points or the
Path
points system.
sense.
Past 10 system. I don't know why it's not points. Past 10 system for Kingdom Hearts 2 randomizer. Next Saturday, we end off our look at S4 Gridman. It's just the last 4 episodes of the 12-episode series. But between now and then, if you like what you're seeing, drop a follow. Really appreciate chipping away. I feel like it'll at TJS Network on Mastodon social, and that teaches in on Twitter. We get updates of life. The exclamation point, Discord, chat. This is a link. Drop by, say hi. Either what do you have anything else to add?
No, it's nice to be back.
I don't have anything else to add either.
All right, then we'll see y'all tomorrow, folks.
Get in bed.